Hey guys, welcome to Church Online at South Hills Corona. We are so excited that you are tuning in today. My name is Ashley and I'm our communications apprentice here at South Hills. And we are so excited for you to tune into this service and check out everything we have to offer today. And if you're brand new with us, we'd love to invite you to fill out a Connect card. To do that, you can either click the link in the description below or you can text the word Connect to 951-476-2550. A Connect card is the best way to get more information on everything we have going on here at South Hills. Also, it's the best way to let us know about a prayer request that we could be praying for you about, or to speak with a pastor, or if you just want to tell us your story about how our online services have impacted your life. We've also got a bunch of really awesome stuff happening this month, and I'm going to tell you about a couple of those. The first one launches today, and it's Family Month. This is one of our favorite times of the year, and we are so excited to spend this entire month diving into God's Word and learning about how to have better relationships in the relationships that are closest to us. Plus, each Sunday at our 9 or 6 p.m. on-campus services, we've got fun, family-friendly events going on each week, and you are not going to want to miss any of them. If you're comfortable meeting in person, we would love to see you here for them. Also, we'd love to invite you guys to invite your friends and family who you think could benefit from this series. The easiest way to do that is to go to our website and click the invite page button. You can get the link below in the description, but there you're going to find all kinds of different graphics and videos that you can send to your friends and family, and there's even some sample captions there to make it super easy. And finally, we also have a family devotional that we're offering this month. And again, that link is down in the description below. We want to encourage you guys to download this and go through it with your family. It's great for all ages, and we really think you're going to get a ton out of it. And then lastly, we are super excited to be partnering with one of our strategic outreach partners again this month, Olive Crest. And we've told you a lot about this organization, but they have over 500 houses that serve as transition homes for kids in rough living situations. And this year, because of everything going on, they're not gonna get the chance to do a traditional trick-or-treat, so we are going to reverse that on them and we are gonna bring trick-or-treating to them. We're gonna be collecting candy all month long so that we can build goodie bags to drop off at each of the houses that are in our community. Our goal is to collect 10,000 pieces of candy, and we know that's a lot, but if we all come together, we can totally do this. You can drop off those bags of candy on campus on Sundays or on Tuesdays during our office hours. We're gonna be collecting donations through the 18th, and you can also be a part of loading the candy bags or of dropping them off, which we'd suggest doing in costume. And if you wanna sign up for those, you can head to the Church Center app and sign up to help out with that. Thanks so much for tuning in. Enjoy the service.
Jesus, light of heaven, lover of the lost. Jesus, perfect love, you meet us where we are. You came to us to show the love perfect love you meet us where we are.
Well, I just want to say welcome once again to Church Online. My name is Adam, and I'm the campus pastor here at South Hills Corona, and it's Family Month, and I couldn't be more excited about this. If you're tuning in for one of the first times, maybe you haven't been with our church for very long, maybe this is your very first Sunday, you may not get why we're so excited about this season, and it's been this long-standing tradition we've had for 20 plus years at our church where we just take time to kind of talk about what it means to have great relationships at the core of our life. It's something that we all want, but maybe not something that we all intuitively know how to do. And we want to talk about what that could look like. How do we have a great marriage? How do we raise kids that actually want to be around when they don't have to be, when they've graduated and they have their own lives, that actually want to be in our lives and connected to us? Like, how do we have great relationships at every level of our existence? And we're going to give you hopefully some insight during this series about how that could be. And I want to encourage you to tune in, not just this week, but all 4 weeks of this series, because it is a series. One connects to the next and the next and the next. And I think all of it is going to be helpful to your life if you listen and lean in and tuck this stuff into your life. So today, I want to encourage you to take some notes, write down some things that stand out to you, type them in your phone or your computer, whatever you've got handy. And if you are taking notes, the title of my message today is Not Another Teen Movie. Now, I got to ask you this. How many of you, like, there are certain movies that just defined your teenage years? Like, when you think back on junior high and high school, you're just like, man, that was it. I watched it so many times, I've lost count. Maybe you were of my generation. You're just like, I had it on VHS. I wore out the VHS. Okay, I had to go and reel the tape back in. Like, I had to buy a second copy. There was just something about it that clicked with you. And maybe even now, even though you were 10, 20, 30 years removed from that season of your life, if you're sitting at home or maybe you're on a trip in a hotel room and you're flipping through the channels and you come across that movie, you've seen it so many times, but there's something about it. You've just got to stop and watch a little bit of it because it just speaks to a certain time in your life. And again, because I grew up in the 80s and 90s, this for me is movies like The Goonies, okay? Just a ragtag band of kids who go and find pirate treasure. 16 Candles, basically anything with Molly Ringwald that I had a crush on when I was a kid, and then grew up and married a redheaded girl. So that's maybe this movie is partially to blame. Who's to say, right? I mean, I gotta be honest, I hate to admit this one, but Clueless, okay? Because I know some of you are like, that's a girl movie. And you know what? I had 4 sisters growing up, okay? But that's the way they talked and acted, and they wanted to be Alicia Silverstone. And then Teen Wolf, right? The original Teen Wolf, Michael J. Fox. I mean, a guy who hits puberty and doesn't just get hair, springing up in the normal puberty places, but like everywhere, because he finds out that he's a teenage werewolf. And naturally, he would do what you and I would do. He uses that superpowers to become really great at basketball because everyone knows that wolves can dunk. I don't know if you've ever taken the time to analyze them, to think about like what connects them, like why do they fit into this sphere? And if you start breaking it down, a lot of these movies, it's basically all the same story. I mean, they all follow the same base formula. You've got, these kids that really just want to have fun. They just want to fit in. And their parents are really well-meaning, but they're completely clueless. They have no idea what teenage life is really like. And then something happens that sort of preoccupies the parents. It's like a trip, or it's something about their job, or something that's going on with them. And they leave. And so then the kids are left to their own devices. And then things quickly spiral out of control. Somebody has an idea that like maybe they shouldn't chase, but they do anyway. And then like once everything gets to its craziest peak point, the parents re-enter the picture. And they realize that their kids are not who they thought they were, right? There's usually that scene where the parents step in and there's the record scratch, in the party. And they're just like, I thought I knew you, right? And then there's kind of this ending part where maybe there's some yelling and frustration, but ultimately they actually finally have a conversation. They're actually finally engaging on a gut level, and everyone ends up having this epiphany, right? The parents realize how tough it actually is to be a teenager and how much they'd forgotten that over the years. And they also realize that maybe they've been like a little checked out and not really paying attention to what was going on in their kids' lives. And the kids realize that not all adults, including their parents, are complete idiots at all times. Like, tell me that is not every teen movie you have ever seen in your entire life, because they're all the same, and they keep making them. Why? Because they click, they connect. But I will tell you this, something that I've discovered, like watching these movies back as an adult, they play a little bit differently, because I think that the genre of a teen movie depends on your age and stage of life. Like when you're a kid, it is clearly a comedy, but when you're a parent, it's a horror film. Okay, when you're a parent, this plot is your worst nightmare. I mean, coming home to a trashed house, Solo cups and clothing everywhere, like the remnants of drugs you can't even pronounce the names of. You have this impulse to buy your daughter a pregnancy test. And it's not like the scene itself that scares you. It's the suspicion that you've raised kids that lack restraint, that lack wisdom and character, who have no respect for authority, who are clearly flexible morally. Like no one tries or sets out to raise a kid like that. It's a horror film for parents because we're afraid that one day we are going to realize that we've created a monster. And we thought we were in a comedy, but as it turns out, we are in Frankenstein. And the monster we've cobbled together is our own kid. And that's scary. There couldn't be anything more intimidating. And when you're a kid, it's not like that at all. Like these movies are hilarious because, in the words of the philosopher theologian Will Smith, parents just don't understand. Okay. And it feels like when you're watching it, like it would kind of be awesome to pull one over on your parents, because in movies, parents are idiots, right? They're the ones who don't really get what's important in life. Popularity, football, like getting a girl to make out with you. These are the important things in existence. Why don't parents get that? Parents think they're all smart and they're in control and that they're raising their kids to be a certain way. But in truth, like their parenting has zero impact on who their kids actually are, and they can't even see this. But I would tell you that whether you're a kid or a parent looking at these movies, you know what's funny on screen when it happens to someone else isn't as funny in real life when it happens to you. And I think a lot of us, as we get older, we end up looking back on our history and our parents, maybe some of the pain that was caused, and we find ourselves thinking, or probably saying to our therapist, you know, when I have kids, I'm not going to be like my parents. I'm not going to make all their dumb mistakes. I'm going to be better, different. I'm going to be cooler. Okay. And we usually, we swing the pendulum like really far in the other direction, which sort of solves a few old problems and then creates a lot of new ones. And then at other times, we end up channeling our parents. I wonder if you've been there, where no matter how much you swore you were not going to be like your mom or dad, you find yourself in the middle of that moment yelling at your kids something absurd, echoing some phrase that you rolled your eyes at when you were a kid. I will turn this car around right now. And then you're like, I'm my father. What am I doing right now? I will tell you this. All of us at times feel relationally in over our heads. And so, we talk to other people, we read, we pray for God's help, we try and learn, we do our best. We experiment on our children, which sounds crazy, but what other options do we have? And it's not just crazy, it's scary because we've all only got one shot. Like you only get one go around with your kids. And a lot of us have these times where we feel like, I think I'm doing okay. And then, one day we walk in and we look around and we feel like we somehow stepped into the chaotic third act of a teen movie. And we think like, what is going on? Like, who are these people? This is not the kind of family I thought we were going to be. And yet, I guess this is who we are. There's this renowned researcher and author, Tim Elmore. He published this research study of the most common traits parents, coaches, and teachers run across in the kids our culture has been churning out over the past few years. And I just want to read them to you so that you can feel as sad inside as I do coming to this realization. The first thing was that they act spoiled, arrogant, and entitled, often coming off as rude, condescending, or dismissive. That they expect quick and easy results. They struggle with long-term commitment and the stamina to finish what they start. They have trouble connecting with those outside their own clique. They often lack absolute values, allowing their immediate surroundings to dictate their level of morality. They have short attention spans, finding it difficult to focus on one thing or sit and listen for very long. They get depressed when they're not automatically hailed as the superstars they've been led to believe that they are. And they neglect tasks that seem trivial, feeling that they should be doing something more important, upfront, or entertaining. These aren't just our kids' issues. These are our issues. Like, they're not just cultural or generational, they're universal. And while I definitely do think that technology and postmodernism have augmented these issues, they've always sort of been there. They're these hurdles that every human has to overcome. And this is the purpose of parenting, to guide us from impulsivity toward immaturity. Like, maturity is this act of prioritizing what is good over just what feels good. And I think a lot of us struggle with this. I mean, a lot of us, if we're honest, we struggle to do what's good. In fact, some of us, we struggle to even know what's good. Like, we want to adult, but it's so hard, right? And so what do we do? I mean, whether the kids that you are raising are your own or whether the kid that you're raising is really yourself, what's the answer? I'm sure you've heard some suggestions. I mean, there's a whole grouping of people that think like, we've got to get back to the good old days. Kids these days with their newfangled beeper pagers and fax machines, with their hair permanents and their sports drinks and their high-tech roller rinks. I don't know that this is the answer. I think some of us long for this bygone era that never really existed. And in fact, I want to take you back to the good old days, like as old as the days can possibly get, like way back to the book of Exodus. And I want to show you that this has always been an issue, this struggle to transition ourselves, our families, our kids from impulsivity to maturity. And it's the story of this people group, the Israelites, who have been slaves for generations. And through this series of just insane miracles, God sets them free and they escape. And there are thousands of them. And Moses becomes their leader, their guide, their father figure. And he's trying his best to parent them forward as people. And then this thing happens. Exodus chapter 24, verse 12. It says this: "The Lord said to Moses, 'Come up to meet me on the mountain. Stay here, and I'll give you the tablets of stone on which I've inscribed the instructions and commands so you can teach the people.' And so Moses and his assistant Joshua set out. Moses climbed up the mountain of God. Moses told the elders, 'Stay here and wait for us until we come back.'" Essentially, like you've got a father figure who goes on this trip, and he leaves his grown kids, the children of Israel, at home, basically unattended, right? There's a couple babysitters, right? Some elders that are left behind, and his kid brother. And, tell me this doesn't sound like a teen movie, okay? You've got these people who have been sheltered their whole lives. They really want to fit in, and you've got this well-meaning parent preoccupied with something else, which that thing is pretty important, like meeting with God on a mountain. And the kids are just sort of left behind to their own devices. And this is what happens. Exodus chapter 32, verse 1. "When the people saw how long it was taking Moses to come back, they gathered around Aaron." This is Moses' brother. "Come on," they said, "make us some gods who can lead us. We don't know what happened to Moses who brought us here." So Moses, right, he's taking forever. And these people, these ancient people that lived way back in the good old days, like all kids, they expected quick and easy results. They struggled with long-term commitment and being consistent with trivial tasks because in their minds, like, freedom is supposed to feel fun, which we're entitled to. And so even though it was kind of arrogant and condescending, they tell Aaron, Moses' brother, the guy who's left home in charge, watching the house, that they should just be able to do whatever they want to. And, what makes the thing that they want to do so bad is that, the one thing that the Israelite people became known for is worshiping one God. Like, not multiple gods like virtually every other culture around them. This was one of their core family values as a people. Like, they'd been told this their whole lives, that their God was the one true God and that he was everywhere. He was in all things and united all things and couldn't be boxed in or contained or embodied in a physical object. And that this God deserves priority, deserves the best of your attention. And Aaron knows this. Like, he knows that what they want isn't good, to build another God, to manufacture an idol, to prioritize something other than God in their lives. But he kind of wants to be the fun parent. Like, he just wants his kids to be happy, and they really want to do this. And it's like, just this once. And so he gives in, and he's just like, "Hey, let's melt down everybody's necklaces and make a cow." And they do. And this is what happens. Exodus chapter 32, verse 5 says, "When Aaron saw how excited the people were, he built an altar in front of the calf." Now, we have all been here. I mean, maybe not this exact scenario, hopefully. But every parent is tempted to give their children what they want instead of what they need. When we see how excited our kids are, we kind of just want to give in. It's not just the excitement that propels us, it's energy in the other direction too. And the reason why we're tempted to do this is because parenting is hard. Okay, kids throw fits, they manipulate, they push your buttons, they butter you up and then immediately tear you down. They say whatever they can think that's mean and horrible and nasty that they know will make you feel insecure to try and sway you in their direction. This is every kid's secret weapon, wearing you down, pushing you to that place where you're just like, "Okay, fine, do whatever you want. I'm tired. I can't have this fight with you anymore." except that it ends up sending this message that if you throw a big enough fit for a long enough period of time, you can get whatever you want. And that is the opposite of maturity. That the person that makes the biggest scene should be bowed to at all times. I'm not sure that that's the lesson we want to teach our kids. Part of the reason why so many of us end up accidentally teaching it is because sometimes the way you need to love your kids will cause them to temporarily hate you. I think a lot of us are just way too insecure for that. In this particular ancient story, like every other teen movie, including old ones that existed before movies, one thing leads to another and things quickly spiral out of control. And then the dad comes home, right? Moses. Exodus chapter 32, verse 19 says, when they came near the camp, this is Moses and his assistant Joshua, Moses saw the calf and the dancing, and he burned with anger. He threw the stone tablets to the ground. We're talking about the 10 Commandments here, smashing them at the foot of the mountain. He took the calf they'd made and burned it, and then he ground it into a powder, and he threw it to the water, and he forced the people to drink it. Like, some of you are like, this is in the Bible? Yeah. I mean, like, in a weird way, this kind of gives me a little bit of relief as a parent because I have lost it on my kids before, but I've never been that bad. Especially when you think about the context, right? Like, this is happening after he finished praying on a mountain, face to face with God, who just wrote the 10 Commandments by hand in front of him and gave them to Moses, who's walking down from the mountain thinking like, I'm feeling pretty spiritual. Like everything in my life is going pretty good. What is this, a party? You freaking kids! I'm going to grind your toys into a powder and you can drink it! Priceless. This is amazing. The very next verse, verse 21, it says, finally, he turned to Aaron and he demanded, what did these people do to you to make them bring such terrible sin upon them? Don't get so upset, Aaron replied. You yourself know how evil these people are. This is hilarious to me. Like, be honest. Does this happen in your house? Like when things get out of hand and things don't go according to plan and, somebody gets frustrated or angry or something gets broken, like everyone just points a finger at everyone else. It's not me. It's them. It's her. They did. It's their fault. What? Moses in this story blames Aaron. Aaron blames the kids. You were supposed to be watching them. Well, you were gone and I was tired. They tricked me with their evil. Nobody in this story wants to accept accountability. And yet, is this so unlike our stories? But in reality, behaviors only exist in an environment that enables them. Like, as uncomfortable as it is to face, our family dynamics are a reflection of who we are and what we've chosen to allow. In this ancient story, both parent figures are upset because they're thinking we told them the rules. Like, we told them what we wanted and expected. We told them why we wanted it and expected it. We told them how important it was and what the consequences for not following through were going to be. And they just thought to themselves, these kids know better. And maybe they did. But there are different kinds of knowing. In fact, in the Greek, this language that the New Testament is spoken and written in, the language that Jesus taught in, there are two words for knowing, two different types of knowing. There's gnosko, which is this an intellectual way of knowing. I think of it as head knowledge. It means to be aware of, to be informed, to become acquainted with. But then there's oida, which is an experiential way of knowing. I think of it as heart knowledge, which is to fully perceive and understand through experience. And if you think about your life and the way that you know things, there are certain things that you kind of were, I guess, intellectually aware of, but you didn't really get it. Like you didn't know it in here. There wasn't this connection between like what was being told to you and how to actually put that into practice and what it would feel like if you didn't. There was a disconnect. And I think what happens is, you know, we tell, or maybe we've been told something time and again. And, you know, there were stern lectures and passionate pleas and warnings and threats, and everybody knows better, sort of. I mean, intellectually, but not experientially. And the truth of the way that we work as people is we learn far more from experiences than we do from explanations. In other words, like what you learned in kindergarten is true. Show and tell, right? Showing is better than telling because values are more caught than taught. A lot of us wonder why, when we tell our kids things, it doesn't seem to be sinking in. We think like I told them and told them and told them, but I step away and I step back and I'm not seeing them get it, but they know better. And I think the uncomfortable truth that we don't often want to face is that you can teach what you know, but you will reproduce who you are. Like, here's the question that Moses and Aaron, like the parental figures in this ancient story, didn't really want to ask themselves. The question that when we look at our families, we don't like what we see, we should be asking ourselves, what in me created that in them? Like, sure, I may have told them this, but I've shown them that. Like, I've given them this explanation, like way more than once, but I've also given them this opposing experience a lot more. Like when it comes down to like some explanation we gave or some experience that someone had, the experience is always going to carry more weight. I think these are the hardest self-realizations to wrestle with because it means that the key to our family's growth is our own. Tim Elmore, the same researcher from above, says in one of his books, he says that children have a better chance of growing up if their parents have done so first. I love and hate that thought because it means that if I'm seeing immaturity in my kids, it's pointing to an immaturity that in some ways still exists in me. As much as I want them to grow up, it begins with me deciding that I'm going to fully grow up. And that's not always something we want to do. In fact, I think sometimes we're least open to growing up the more we become a grown-up. In this Exodus story, you know, as much as Moses and Aaron wanted to blame the children of Israel, they knew they had a hand in what had happened and who they'd become. They realized that they were going to have to do more than just tell these people what to do. They were going to have to call them out and hold them accountable to their mistakes and missteps. They were going to have to be active mentors, not just distant authority figures barking out orders. And this is a concept that gets pulled through all of Scripture. In fact, when we get to the New Testament and the Apostle Paul is trying to disciple or mentor young men and women, like people that he would think of as his spiritual children, he says it this way. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 1, he says, imitate me just as I imitate Christ. And what he's telling them is like, I'm not expecting you to do what I say. Do what I do. Like, I get the way that human nature works. Like, you're going to model what you see most consistently in front of you. Like, it's going to have an impact on you. Who you are is going to be shaped by who I am, by what you see and experience me doing. And so what is it that I want you to see me doing? Trying to be like Christ with every word, every decision, and every action. I'm not going to get it perfect, but I want to stumble forward to that end. And here's the thing I want to say to you. The thing that I think Moses and Aaron realized the hard way. Your kids can't see or experience what you do on the mountain. Like they don't get to see like how disciplined and devoted you are when you're not around. I just wonder this. Are you modeling the values you want them to reflect right in front of them? Because that's what's most going to shape them. Like, let's get really practical, which usually means uncomfortable, right? Like, how do your kids, your family, your spouse, your closest friends, the people you want to have a positive impact on, like, how do they see you talking about others, especially those you don't agree with? Like, how do they see you respond when you really get angry? Like, what about when you realize you're wrong? Like, do they see you apologize or defend and backpedal and gaslight? Like, how do they see you trust God with the things that he's given you? Like, how do they see you prioritize your schedule? Like, what is the thing that is a non-negotiable for you? Like, what about when it comes to your money? What do they see you prioritizing? How do they see you using it to do what? Because you value what? Like, what about the way that you care for your health or your neighbors or your church or your home or the environment? Because the reality of it is, regardless of how many of us do not want to believe this, what they see you do is a whole lot more important than what they hear you say. Because like it or not, the growth you want to see in those around you starts with you. And so what is it that God is calling you to do? Who is it that God is calling you to be? If you're like me, you tune in for a message like this, you pick up a book or read some content along these lines because you want your relationships to get better. And if you're like me, that's kind of code for like, what can you tell me to help these people get better? Like my wife, my kids, like my in-laws, like how do I make these people get better? And the thing that Scripture continues to echo back to us is that all our relationships get better as we get better, because you can't control them. You can only take control of you. In fact, the best you can do is to simply devote yourself to Jesus, to surrender your life to him, to stumble and struggle forward, trying to mimic and model him in your everyday life, and to say to those who are around you, who follow you, who live with you, I don't always get it right, but follow me, imitate me as I attempt to imitate Christ. I know you're going to model something. Model me as I attempt to model Jesus. I just want to tell you, I don't know what your relationships look like right now, but I do know this: better is possible. Your life does not have to be another teen movie. This echo of a story that plays out again and again and again. You can grab hold of something better. And here's the beautiful promise that God gives us, that he is always with us. That if we silence our souls long enough, that we can tap into his spirit, that he'll give us this sense that he's leading us forward. But a lot of us don't take the time to be still enough to just be with him, to hear what he's saying to us about us, to allow him to teach us, to mature us, so that we can model in front of other people something that's worthy of them repeating. And maybe that's the starting point for you today. Maybe you showed up, you tuned in today because you want your relationships to get better. But if you sit for just a minute, you listen to that still small voice inside of you, what you realize is that you really came here so that God could give you his spirit and empower you to get better. And I wonder what that would look like for you. To realize that the God of the universe loves you, cares for you, has even bigger dreams for your family than you do, and wants to lead you forward. What I'd love to do is just to pray for you today and your family. Maybe the family that you have, maybe the family that you hope to one day have, maybe the family that you feel like is kind of pretty much fallen apart. I believe that God can and will do anything. And as we move forward in the weeks to come, we're going to see what God does and how God intervenes into this odd family dynamic of Moses and the children of Israel, and how God moves them forward step by step, and how God might want to inspire us to do the same. But today I want to just simply pray that God would give you the courage to re-engage with your family, to re-engage with him and his spirit and his church, and that God would give you the ability to move forward. Would you bow your head wherever you find yourself today as we pray? God, we are so grateful for the lives that you've given us. And God, so many of us, this has been a weird season for us. This time of COVID, when we look at our lives, things did not go or turn out the way we thought they were going to. And it's been disorienting. And it's definitely played out in the way that we talk about and treat each other. It's had an impact on our relationships. God, a lot of us didn't really have a lot of great relational models, and there's this distance or dysfunction that we're kind of carrying around with us. But God, we want to get better. We want to be better. We want to have relationships that actually work. And God, I pray that you would, during this series, help us to open our hearts to what you want to say to us. God, that we wouldn't be looking for ways to fix other people, but God, we would invite you in to fix us. God, we just surrender to you. God, we say, teach us, train us, show us your will and your way for our relationships. And God, help us to cling to the example of your son, Jesus. God, may we little by little seek to model the things that he modeled for us, for those around us. And God, may we, through your spirit, through the power that you put in us, be able to look at those around us and say, follow me as I stumble forward towards Christ. God, I pray that you would help us to reproduce around us something that looks like you. And God, may be something that has a positive impact on the world. God, heal what is broken, make better what is good. And God, may we know that no matter where we're at, that you are always with and for us. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, there are just a couple things that I want to encourage you to do before the service is done here. So don't log off quite yet. And the first is this. If you're watching today and there's something about this message or this prayer that specifically spoke to you, and maybe you have this sense that you really want a deep connection with Jesus, that you've kind of been trying to do life on your own terms, and you want to begin to give the Spirit of God like full reign to run your life, to lead you forward, to guide you into a better way of being. And when we were praying, there was this sense that like I wasn't just praying, that you were praying along with me, and you want to know what it looks like to wrap your life around God. And we want to know about that because we want to help you take whatever next steps in your journey are going to move you forward. And you can let us know by simply texting the word connect to the number on the bottom of your screen. And there's going to be an electronic connect card that will be kicked back to you instantly. You can fill that out. Just a few brief pieces of information. You can click the box that says, I said yes. And any other boxes that you want information about, and one of our team will get back with you. We want to give you a gift, like a free Bible, a reading plan, just some resources about how to get involved and how to take your next steps in your spiritual journey. And the other thing that I want to invite everyone to do with us today is to give with us. This is a regular reminder that we give at our church every single week, because we believe that healthy things that we want to do but maybe don't feel like doing, we need accountability. We need consistent reminders, alarms. Like, we need these prompts to remind us, like, yeah, that's a big deal, and I want to make it a habit in my life. And so this is your weekly reminder that everything that you have in life came from God and belongs to God. That ultimately, like, He is your protector, your provider, and He is priority. And when we align our lives with that truth, life works better. And so many of you have consistently decided to give what we call tithe, the first and best of what God has given you, back to Him through your local church. And some of you, this is kind of a new idea or a new practice, but I want to encourage you on this inaugural day of Family Month. I want to encourage you to give in some way, shape, or form today, whether it's a consistent habit or whether it's something new that you're starting today to model for your family, to be the kind of person that puts God, His church first, and who prioritizes generosity over just kind of watching out for ourselves. There's a lot of different ways you can give. You can give online through our website, which is southhills.org/give. You can give through our Church Center app. You can search that through the App Store, download it. Make sure you select South Hills Church and specifically the Corona campus, and you can give with us that way. You can give through our text to give function, or you can give by mailing your gift in, or simply dropping by the church and dropping it off during either office hours or one of our live on-campus services. We've got one at 9 a.m. every Sunday morning on the lawn, and one at 6 p.m. just as the sun's going down. And we usually have a coffee truck out here, and it's incredible. But I want to just say thank you for your giving. It really makes a difference. I hope that it is having this impact on your heart as you continually trust God a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more every time you give. But I also want you to know that your giving is making a big difference right here in our community. And it's doing so in many, many different ways. But one that I wanted to highlight for you today is we set up this partnership with Olive Crest, which is this organization that tries to meet the needs of foster kids. And they have a series of group homes, and they do so much to care for kids who have been pulled out of unhealthy living situations, and yet they're under-resourced, like a lot of nonprofits, especially during this chaotic season. And we stepped up and said, what can we do to help as a church? And they gave us a whole list of things, and we've just been honestly tackling them one by one by one, as you guys have been generous above and beyond your normal tithes to our Beyond Our Walls fund. And one of the things we did recently was we put together this drive for just supplies that kids would need to live: bedding, toiletries, toothpaste, blankets, all this sorts of stuff. We wanted to give them enough stuff so that every kid who checks into the program, and even when they leave, can get brand new stuff to make their room their own and get to take it with them when they go. And you stepped up in a huge way and donated big time. Some of you gave by donating through our Amazon wish list. Some of you dropped off armloads, trunkfuls of items. Some of you gave money through Beyond Our Walls so that we could do the shopping for you. And there were a handful of ladies that really enjoyed spending your money to bless these kids. And it really made a big deal. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of, honestly, hundreds of kids whose lives have been made better because of your willing to sacrifice on their behalf. Thank you. I can't wait to share with you further stories about how people stepped up and gave and the impact it had on individuals. And in fact, next week, we're going to share an incredible video with you of just a short interview with one of the leaders of all of Crest, just letting you know a little bit about what they do and why it's a big deal. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your consistent giving. Thank you for having a heart for other people. Thank you for modeling for your kids and the next generation what generosity looks like on a consistent basis. And thank you for empowering us to love our community well. We love you guys. We are so incredibly excited for this series. I cannot wait to share week 2 with you. Grab hold of one thing today, one thing out of all the statements that were made, the stories that were told, the points that were given, and just share that with somebody online. Maybe write it on a sticky note, but apply one thing to your life this week. Trust God a little bit more this week than last week, and allow him to lead you forward. I'm praying for you guys. I'm believing the best for you. I can't wait to see you next week. God bless.
Thank you guys so much for watching today. We hope that you learned something and were encouraged. And if maybe something tugged at your heart and made you want to say yes to Jesus, we'd love to invite you to fill out one of our Connect cards. You can do that by texting the word Connect to 951-476-2550. We'd love to be able to follow up with you and support you as you take this next step in your faith journey. As always, we hope you guys enjoyed this message, and we'd encourage you to share it on your favorite social media platform or on Facebook, YouTube, or Vimeo. We love you, and we will see you here next week for more Family Month.